Hello everyone, welcome back to a new video. I'm Carl Stacey here at Carl Stacey Guitar Tuition, and I'm going to jump into this video. I'm enjoying doing these album rankings at the moment, so I'm filming a few of them today. They're going to come out at different times, of course. Today's is going to be about Good Charlotte. So the reason for this is because obviously they've just released a new album. I feel like it's a fitting time to target that and to focus on the band right now with the release of the new album and things like that, okay? So this is going to be obviously spanning from like 2000 to 2025, 25-year span. Not a whole lot of albums there, because obviously they've taken breaks for a good amount of years here or there. But I'm going to go through, I'm going to rank them worst to best. As always with these videos, these are all bands that I love and all albums that I love. So when I say worst to best, it's more so just the ones that are more sentimental to me or nostalgic to me, or I value or revisit a little bit more in terms of listening and things like that, alright? So just bear that in mind whenever watching these videos. So, worst to best, number 8, last one, I'm going to start with Good Morning Revival. There's a few Good Charlotte albums that I don't tend to revisit as much, and this is one of them. And I think it's mainly purely just because the stylistic kind of thing the band were going for at that period of time when this album came out, which was that more sort of keyboard, electronic, dance sort of inspired thing, right? Still with obviously the kind of punk and pop punk sound, that kind of mix of the two. Still some songs I love on here, like The River and Keep Your Hands Off My Girl, things like that. Still solid tracks, standout tracks. But when I'm talking about an album, I rank these based on how often do I revisit it or listen to it start to finish and things like that. And this is just one of them that, for some reason, doesn't have as much of a place in my heart as some of the other Good Charlotte albums do. And it's just kind of, I don't know, the time period it came out. I think I was just listening to different things at the time and all that kind of stuff. The next one on the list is actually going to be, I've changed the list, alright? I wrote a list out, and since the album's been released, I've changed it. As of right now, number 7 in this list is going to be Motel Du Cap, and I hate to say that. It actually kills me inside to say that right now, because I genuinely was so looking forward to this album and really, really wanted to love it because it's the first album in 7 years. So I'm kind of gutted about that. I've only listened to it once or twice, start to finish. I'm planning on revisiting it at least 2-3 more times to really, really see how I feel about it. As always, solid album as a whole and solid singles and tracks across that album as a whole. But in terms of an album start to finish, there's just not enough of what I want or need out of Good Charlotte as a band in this album. Unfortunately, like I said, it kind of kills me to say that, but it's just the truth. I have to be honest. So yeah, I'll revisit it and maybe it'll change in my kind of list further down the line, but as of right now, it's gonna stay here as of right now, alright? Next up in the list is gonna be Cardiology, alright? Again, solid album. If anything, this is one of the, although I've still got it quite low on the list, this is actually one of the albums that I do quite enjoy quite often. The only reason it's so low on the list for me is because of the time period it came out. I just wasn't really listening to Good Charlotte at the time, in like 2010 or whatever. I was just kind of doing other things, listening to other things. It wasn't a time period that I was like super into the band or cared too much about what was coming out, unfortunately. They've been a band I've always loved and listened to and looked up to. It's more just a situational time period thing. So this album is solid and there's some really good songs on there. I'd still say it's much better than some of the other albums, but it's just more in this specific list of the albums they do have, I can't rate it any higher. Next up in that list is going to be their debut, the self-titled album. Again, this is quite, we're getting towards the end of the list really, we're almost top 5 now, so again, this is a solid album, and I actually do find myself revisiting this album a lot in summer as well. I feel like it's a good feel-good summer vibes, sunny day album because of the whole early 2000s pop-punk thing, right? The only reason why, again, it's so low on my list is because it's the first album, so I don't feel like they were like as musically mature as they could be or would later be as a band and as musicians. And also, it was like, I had to go back to this album after listening to The Young and the Hopeless. I had to revisit this album. So once you've heard an album like Young and the Hopeless and you come back to the self-title, it's like, yeah, it's a good album, but it's not The Young and the Hopeless. So it's always going to be a bit of a divide as far as that's concerned for me, alright? Up on the list is an album that I actually do quite enjoy and quite love. and this is going to be Chronicles of Life and Death. It's definitely that, it's that time period, like in the early 2000s when Sum 41, Good Charlotte, Blink, Simple Plan, all of these bands all of a sudden became emo bands, it felt like, right? They all released like darker sounding music pretty much all roughly at the same time. Don't know why that happened, it just kind of did. Even Avril Lavigne did, I don't know, it's weird. But this album kind of came out at that time period as well. It's a darker album. Predictable is one of my all-time favourite Good Charlotte songs as a whole. Really love this album start to finish. Really solid kind of themes in the album and songs on the album as a whole. I feel like it's a little bit too long. I feel like the album is a little bit too long personally for me and my personal likings. I feel like it would be a lot stronger if it was condensed, a few songs maybe, looking back on it now. But yeah, I still do love this album. There's just other albums I love more. So now we're going to be in, I believe we're in the top 3 now. So next up, in number 3, is actually going to be Youth Authority. This was a solid comeback album for me. I feel like, unfortunately, it drops off midway through the album, now revisiting it and looking back. Energy-wise, it kind of drops off, and a lot of the stuff what they're doing on the latest album, Motel du Cap, I feel like they kind of did a whole lot more of that in that new album, kind of similar to what they did in the middle section of this album. I feel like if this album had another single or two, energy-wise, or cut a song or two, energy-wise in the middle, maybe again just condensed it slightly, I feel like it'll be so much better front to back, start to finish. But again, solid songs, a solid album, I can't really fault it. And I remember it coming out, and I remember buying the CD for it and everything, just being really excited about it. So yeah, love that album generally speaking. Number 2 for me is actually Generation RX. I believe this is one of the greatest Good Charlotte albums of all time, and I feel like it doesn't get as much recognition or as much as it could or should. Really love this album, really, like, going back to what I was saying before about condensing the albums down, this is a 9-song album. You couldn't condense it any more than that, right? If anything, they should have done an extra song. They could have made it 10. They could have just rounded it up. That's the only flaw I find with this album is it could actually be another song or two, to be completely honest with you. But the emotion behind this album, the heavier, darker tone behind this album, I'm actually one of those people that prefers the heavier, darker side of Good Charlotte versus the more like kind of singer, songwriter side of the band necessarily. So that's why this album feels so good to me. It's just got that nice kind of heavy, almost post-hardcore kind of emo sound to it that I feel like they really do so well, and I wish they would kind of do more of, or I really wish we would have seen more of that maybe in Motel du Cap, which is maybe why I'm so kind of disappointed personally, but I really love this album anyways. Alright, number 1, of course you guessed it, this is probably number 1 in most people's list, and that is The Young and the Hopeless. This album has everything. It's got the fun songs, it's got the dark songs, it's got great artwork. It came out at the peak time of the band and the peak times of the 2000s. It impacted my life and so many other people's lives in terms of pop punk and emo and just everything growing up in the 2000s is this album to me. It really changed my life, and I know it would have changed a lot of people's lives as well. So that's why it always has been and always will be number 1 on my list, and I still revisit it over and over and over and over again to this day as well, alright? So that's my list for Good Charlotte anyways. Thank you very much for watching again today. Let me know what you think and feel about the Good Charlotte albums and Good Charlotte as a band as a whole, and I'll catch you in the next video.